Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, wherever you people are. I hope you all are having a great time and must be preparing and learning for the interviews which have been aligned ahead. So, as promised to everyone, I'm here today starting the sessions for the ICSR. So, probably there are two sessions which I would be taking. I'm just talking about ICSR, I'm not jumping into GVP Module 6. We will start that later. But before starting with the GVP Module 6, I just want to give you an overview about the ICSR. What are ICSRs? How they have been processed, what is the information which you require to enter into the database, what are the tabs, what is the basic the generalized medical safety information which we need to update into the database so that we can submit it to the regulatory authorities as per the timelines. So timelines play a very crucial role over here because there are so many reports what we receive. So spontaneous, or you can say just in a generalized terminology, that is solicited and the unsolicited. So the different varieties of the reports what we receive are being divided into different timelines what have been submitted to the regulatory authorities. Now it also depends upon drug to drug and case to case, that how does it vary. So we will discuss everything into brief in this session, so just keep all your notepads and pen ready and make a note out of it. You can see my screen, so that's a slide share which has been provided for everyone, so that if you want to stop and you want to note something, you can note it down from here. And the reference has been taken from GVP Module 6, Good Vigilance Practices. So let's begin. So we'll start with the table of the content. So we'll start with the basic introduction. What is an ICSR? What is the use of ICSR? Means why do you require to submit an ICSR? Then we will discuss the basic terminologies, definitions. What are the standards for reporting the reports to the regulatory authorities? What should be reported? What should not be reported? What are the reporting timeframes? How to report? Sources of the individual case reports, the ICSR, what we receive. Then in the further sessions, we will discuss about the tabs of the database, and the end we will just conclude it with the narrative writing. So let's begin. There are several types of database which has been widely used all across the globe. So we have RSG, we have Argus, we have Scepter. Scepter has been used it's been some years that Scepter has not been used continuously. The people have been basically sticking to the RSG and the Argus. So these are the two major database that most of the companies, whichever company you have been joining or you are currently working, you must be using either of these two databases. That is the RSG and the Argus. Now they are meant for reporting as well as the submission of the cases. So these are the database where you process the entire case. Means you start with the booking, you do the intake of the case, you receive some information at the day 0 with all the 4 valid criterias, that is a suspect drug, an event, a reporter, and a patient. So these 4 valid criterias, they form a report which help us in creating a case. So we do the booking with all these 4 criterias, that defines a valid report. After that, post doing the booking, we do the processing of a case. So that is an entire the database which plays a major role, where you have some 7 to 8 tabs. You need to enter each and every information about the patient, whether it's what medical history patient had experienced, what conmed patient was taking, what is the suspect drug, how many adverse event, if there are any lab reports. Also, if the patient is dead, then you need to add the autopsy report if you have been provided with. Then the same applies to the literature cases as well as the pregnancy cases and so on. So it's a huge list of cases. I cannot define it into one line, but we will slowly go through it one by one. Okay. Now, it is important to harmonize the way we gather the information. It is necessary to take on the clinical safety information which arises during any clinical development. Now, you must be aware that whenever we perform any clinical trial, it takes so many years to develop a drug. During this development period, or this phase period, the clinical trial phase period, the drug has been undergone into several tests to the patients. Now we start with the preclinical studies where it has been done over the animals. So we come across through some, what animals has been experiencing some adverse event, adverse drug reactions. Post that we move into the phases to check the safety, efficacy, potency of the drug. And then later on, like it starts with from like 0 to 10 population, then 10 to 100, 100 to 200, and then thousands. And then we go for the post-marketing surveillance. That is when the drug is into the market and what are the adverse event the patients have been facing, and be added into the different sort of forms that we have, like MedWatch, we have COMs, we have E2B submissions as well. So the information is being submitted, means the patients or any the program, patient support program, they provided to the respective companies that this has been manufactured from your end and the patient had been experiencing some sort of adverse event. So they have been categorized separately, and then we database the information which has been provided. So this all depend upon the game of clinical trial, whatever happened during clinical trial and whatever happened post clinical trial, that is in the post marketing surveillance. We come to know about whatever things have been experienced, the adverse event have been experienced by the patient. Then for any development of a medicinal product, it is necessary for it to pass through several stages of development. That's what we have just discussed, that is from the preclinical studies to the marketing into the several countries to gather the information about how effectively, how efficiently the product has been working. During the clinical stages, it has to cross phases, like I just now had discussed stages. The drug has to cross all the three phases, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, to get the license to have the approval for the post-marketing surveillance, because until and unless the drug has not passed all these three phases, it has been not just directly sent into the market. And okay, so for this reason, it is mandatory to look on both the pre and the post-marketing surveillance data. Next, there are two issues with the clinical safety and the management. So there are two major issues what we face during the safety data management. That is, first, the development of the standard definitions and the terminologies for the key aspects of the clinical safety and reporting. And second is the approved mechanism for handling expedited reporting in the pre-approved phase. Means whenever there is a development of any drug, or if we are developing some standard definitions or the terminology, so we need to take care of that clinical aspects so that there is a universal reporting. Means to say, like suppose there is a person who has just reported that I have been experiencing very bad headache. So the term which you're going to take is very bad headache, but what you're going to code is headache. Means the PT, the preferred term, goes to headache. So this all coding we will discuss in the later phase of the learning when we will come to MEDRA, that how actually coding is being performed in pharmacovigilance. So we will discuss that later, but just to generalize you or just to summarize you, the development of these standard definitions has been just done to maintain a uniformity during, at the time of reporting. So that uniformity has to be maintained. An approved mechanism for handling expedited report, that is being done in the pre-approved phase. Means during the clinical trial it is being done. Now let's just discuss some generalized definitions which I have been repeating in my previous videos continuously, because these are the very basic terms you need to come across daily while you're working or you're giving interviews. So let's begin. First is adverse event. Any untoward occurrence in a patient or a clinical investigation subject administered a pharmaceutical product and which does not have a causal relationship with the treatment. Means any patient has taken some sort of drug, means the company drug, and or during the clinical investigation, or the patient has taken through some prescription. So what does the drug is doing to the patient? Is there any causal relationship? Means that adverse event is because of that drug or not. So that this is called the causal relationship, whether that drug is related to the patient, the adverse event or not. So that's how we define an adverse event. Then adverse drug reaction, or the noxious and unintended response to a medicinal product experienced by the patient. Also, they do have a causal relationship among them. The basic difference between the adverse event and the adverse drug reaction is the adverse event may or may not have a causal relationship, whereas the adverse drug reaction do have a causal relationship. Means the causality would be not related, that depends upon what the drug is actually doing to the patient, to what extreme of the adverse event or the adverse drug reaction the patient had experienced. Then we have unexpected adverse drug reaction, any adverse reaction whose nature or severity is not consistent with the applicable product information. Suppose there is some X drug which has been given for some Y indication, and there are some the adverse event which is being mentioned into the leaflet, or when you take that the patient's information leaflet, where it is given that this is the warning, this is the dose, this is the contraindications, these are the adverse events. So something when happens out of the box which has been not mentioned, that is the unexpected adverse drug reaction which you do not expect. Suppose the patient is supposed to experience vomiting, nausea, headache, or some tremors or something, any generalized term which has been mentioned into that leaflet that the patient is supposed to experience, but the patient felt unconscious and started nose bleeding or internal bleeding, something unexpected started. So that is what is being defined as the unexpected ADRs. Then suspected unexpected serious adverse reactions, what you call as SUSARs, an unexpected serious adverse drug reaction which is not consistent with the product information in the summary of product characteristics, that is your SMPCs. Now, what are the serious adverse reactions? So there are two type of cases what you need to process, that is first serious case and the another is the non-serious case. So till yet what we have been discussing is the generalized case. Now we will differentiate into serious and non-serious. Non-serious is something which is not taking on at the sake of your life. It is not causing you death, it is not causing you hospitalization, you're not congenital anomalies there, important medical events is not there, it's not life threatening, means you are not into at the sake of life and death. That are non-serious events. Now everything which is a non-serious cannot be serious. So serious events are that goes into your death, life-threatening, congenital anomaly, hospitalization. It could be either prolonged or initial, and the other important medical events that the list has been released every year, and we have a list of some events which is given by EMEA. So you need to go through that list and you need to check, like suppose upper respiratory tract infections, then you have hemorrhage, bleeding, all these are the IME terms, and the surgery is very important, which is sometimes it has been mentioned, sometimes it's been not mentioned. So you need to just have a check over the IMEs, and then you need to take it into the database which has been applicable to all the above 6 criterias. Now let's go to expectedness. What is expectedness? The purpose of the expedited reporting is to make reporters and regulatory authorities aware about the serious reactions that are either observed or unobserved. So the purpose is to see, expedited report is something which are serious and unexpected, and that is being very mandatory to submitted to the regulatory authorities. They should be aware about that, either it is observed or it is not observed. So that is called as expectedness. Now there are some standards of expedited reporting, that what should be reported. All the reactions that are serious and unexpected, as I just told, that are supposed to be reported. Non-serious adverse reaction, whether they are expected or not eligible, they are also being reported. Expedite report of serious but expected is inappropriate to report, because see, understand why it is inappropriate. Now you're telling you might be asking that, oh, it is a serious case, it is like the patient is hospitalized, but the thing is that it has been given that the patient might get hospitalized, or if there is any IME term which has been populating, it is given in that form that the patient will experience this. So that is expected. You are aware this might happen, so you are prepared for this. Something which you are not prepared for this, that is supposed to be reported to the regulatory authorities. So I hope you might have been aware about the thalidomide incident. I cannot repeat that again and again because I have already taken it into my previous videos. You can go back and have a check about what exactly happened with thalidomide. Then you might come to know what is a serious and unexpected reaction. Okay, now let's come to the next thing, that is the causality. Causality plays a very important role during. Alright, so let's discuss about the reporting time frames. So the reporting time frames varies from the severity and the type of cases. Now, let's suppose if we are talking about a death case or a fatal case, so the timeline is 24 hours, that within 24 hours you need to report all the fatal cases. Life-threatening cases, the absolute timeline is 7 calendar days, but though in few of the organization, both death and life-threatening cases, they are supposed to be submitted within the 24 hours, but the regulatory timelines is the 7 days. Now, all the non-serious cases within 13 calendar days, that also varies from client to client and companies to companies. Now, in the non-serious cases as well, we need to differentiate between solicited and the spontaneous cases. So 60 and 90 it again. So the regulatory timelines is 90 days, but it varies from spontaneous and solicited, that is 30 and 60 days respectively. I'm talking about calendar days, not business days. Please keep a note out of it that whatever the timelines have been reported are into the calendar days, but not the business days. The minimal criteria for the reporting we have already discussed in the beginning of this video, that is the identifiable patient, identifiable reporter, a suspect drug, and the adverse event. Now, the absence of any of these 4 valid criteria, I said any 1 or 2 of these 4 valid criteria, that leads to the formation of an invalid case. So, usually at the time of the booking, when we are doing the intake or the triage, we usually make a follow-up attempt to the reporter or whosoever it's the reporter, either it's physician or it's the patient. So we try to grasp as much as the information through the follow-up process, and as per that we then proceed with the case. Like if we get the information, then we make it as valid. Like whatever missing information we are taking it out from the reporter, we make it a valid case and then we proceed further. If not, then we need to retain the case at the intake step, because if we have not received the information, we cannot just send the case to the case processing team with the half of the information, because again the follow-up need to be initiated from their end. Then what are the sources of the individual case safety report? There are 2 types of sources, that is the unsolicited and the solicited. Now, in the unsolicited, they have been classified accordingly, that is the spontaneous, literature, and via internet. The spontaneous cases where the communication is done through the HCP or the consumer to a company, regulatory authority, or any organization, that is the WHO or the regional center. Then we come to the literature reports. Each MAH, that is the manufacturing authorization holder, is expected to regularly screen the worldwide scientific literature by accessing the widely used systemic literature reviews or the reference database, that is the EM database or the LITRIS. So there are 2 databases which has been used during the literature report searches, which has been given over your screen. Then through the internet, the MAH should regularly screen the website under the management or the responsibility for the potential ADR case reports. Now, what are the solicited case reports? The reports which we receive from the organized data collection systems, for example, clinical trials, registries, post-approval named patient programs, or you can say the patient support program, other patient support and disease management programs, survey of the patient, or the healthcare providers. So this was the first session for your ICSR. I hope you will again go through these slides and prepare thoroughly. Whatever doubts are there, you can comment below in the comment section and I will address them individually, that I promise. I hope you like, share and subscribe to my channel and just make it forward so that everybody can learn and we can, make our good future. So have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. All the best.